Today we're going to be making Korean sticky ribs. Now yes, these are not your traditional ribs, and nor are they prepared the way that you would normally prepare ribs. But trust me when I say that you're going to want to stay till the end of this video, and you're also going to want to try out this recipe. Now when it comes to preparing traditional ribs, you always want to pull the membrane off of the meat, because this is what keeps the meat attached to that bone, and everyone loves fall off the bone ribs. However, for the way that we're going to cook these today, that won't be necessary, because we're going to go ahead and slice in between each bone all the way down the ribs. Now be careful whenever you get towards the end, because there's going to be a small bone that won't slice very easily. What you're going to do in this case is when you get to that bone, you're going to go ahead and put your knife on it, place your hand firmly on the top of your knife, and be careful as you crunch down on that bone. Continue down while we go ahead and finish the ribs, and we're going to go ahead and place them in a bowl so that way we can season them. Now for the seasoning, we're going to be using our Lucky ginger garlic that we picked up from the store. I feel that this will definitely complement the flavor profile that we were trying to achieve with this. So we're going to go ahead and season up our ribs, and we want to make sure that we get a ton of seasoning in here. Don't worry that it's kind of getting all the way up at the top, because we're going to go ahead and get our hands nice and dirty and give these ribs a massage. We want to make sure we mix these really well so that way all that seasoning gets put on all the ribs, and if you need to, go back and sprinkle a little bit more, making sure that we got everything nice and covered while we set these aside. Now in a hot pan, we're going to go ahead and add some high smoke point oil. For this case, we're going to be using avocado oil, and we're going to go ahead and place our ribs inside of the pan to get a nice sear on them. Just like the steak video, you want to lay these away from you so that way you avoid getting splashed by the oil. We're going to let these cook for about 4 to 5 minutes so that way we can achieve a nice golden brown crust. After that 5 minutes, we're going to go ahead and turn these ribs over, and you can see that whenever I'm flipping these over, the ones in the middle seem to have a better crust than the others. So we're going to go ahead and move these around and making sure that everything gets nice and evenly browned. And you might want to do 2 rounds of sauteing to avoid overcrowding your pan. After sauteing, we're going to go ahead and place foil over our pan and place in a preheated 350-degree oven for about 2.5 hours. Now while the ribs are cooking, we're going to go ahead and get our sauce ready. With our green onions, we're going to put them at an angle because we want to be fancy when we're slicing these. Cutting them at an angle just gives them a more fancy look whenever they're all kind of like that little diamond shape. So we're going to do that all the way down until we get to the end towards the white bits, and we're going to place into a bowl. Go ahead and set that aside so we can get ready to chop our onions. I'm going to go ahead and slice the end off here, and we're going to go ahead and make sure we cut that in half and slice it very thinly at the top vertically, and then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing horizontally a couple times so we can get them nice and small. We're going to get our last little bits of onion off before going too far to cut our fingers. We're going to wipe off our knife and place our onions into a bowl. After placing them in a bowl, we're going to repeat the process with our other half of the onion, and we're going to set that aside in a bowl while we get in a pot heated up with some avocado oil. After a few minutes, we're going to go ahead and toss in some cinnamon sticks as well as some bay leaves, and we're going to saute this for about 2 to 3 minutes while it gets nice and aromatic. This is going to make your house smell amazing. After a few minutes, we're going to go ahead and toss in our onions. We're going to soften these down and give them a little bit of color, and then after a few minutes, we're going to go ahead and add our green onions as well, but make sure you save half of them for our garnish. Go ahead and mix everything very well so these flavors can get to know each other, and then after we're going to season with a little bit of garlic, some umami seasoning, and we can't forget our salt and pepper. Now I'm only adding a little bit of salt here because later we're going to be adding some soy sauce, and as you know, soy sauce is very salty. We're going to go ahead and add 1 cup of soy sauce, 1 cup of hoisin, 2 cups of apple cider vinegar, and 1 cup of brown sugar. Go ahead and give this a stir so that way all of our ingredients can get nice and mixed, and then we're going to go ahead and do a little taste test to see what we're missing. I almost forgot to add in our ginger paste, so we're going to go ahead and add that now and give it a nice little mix, and that should be fine for our flavors. We're going to go ahead and bring this up to a boil and reduce it for about 1 hour, and while we're doing that, we can also work on our side dish. Now this is our creamy cheese corn. To make it is super easy. The first thing that we're going to need is some corn on the cob. I want to make this as mess free as possible. To do that, we're going to take a small bowl and place it inside of a larger bowl. This way, when we slice down, our corn will not be all over our cutting board. It will in fact just go into the bowl, and then at the end we can just remove it. As you can see, slice down, and the bowl is there to catch our little bits. We're going to repeat this process with all of our cobs, and then after, in a hot pan, we're going to add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to cook it down until it's to the point right before brown butter. Once we have that completed, we are going to add our corn. Now the goal here is just to add a touch of color to add a little bit more flavoring to our corn. After, we're going to add about a half a cup of mayonnaise and mix it up until everything is nice and put together. Then we're going to go ahead and season with a little bit of salt and pepper, and we're going to add cheese, and we're going to mix that up again, and you should get something like this. Nice and creamy and cheesy and absolutely amazing. This was probably one of the best ways I've had corn, and it reminded me of a Mexican elotes. After 2.5 hours, our sauce and ribs are completed, and it's time to sauce them up. Place in the sauce and then shake off the excess and place it on the rack. We're going to repeat the process with the rest of our ribs and cook for another 10 to 15 minutes. Now to plate, we're just going to dump some corn in the center, and then we're going to go ahead and place our ribs very strategically, making sure they look beautiful, and garnish with our green onions. And just look at how freaking delicious these things look, guys. The sesame seeds, those look amazing, and the green onions and the corn, it all just looks delicious. Let's go ahead and get another picture with all of the ribs on a plate, and let's give this a taste. Let's go ahead and get a bite, and just look how easy that meat pulled away from that bone. And remember, we didn't pull the membrane off of this in the beginning. We're gonna go ahead and try a bit of our corn, and this was absolutely amazing. It was very cheesy and very creamy, and I would definitely recommend it for you to try at home. Now, if you liked what you saw here today, please leave a like and subscribe and get that bell notification on, and I will have many more videos coming for you soon. But until then, I'll see you later.